told Brian I didn't need the cover because I didn't need a microphone. So that helped. If you're interested in becoming a patron of the Iredell Arts Council, please look us up on the web at the Iredell Arts Council, or get in touch with John Koppelmeyer. We'd love to have you. A couple months ago, John asked me if I would be interested in helping books and music for a concert series at the Iredell Arts Council. And the first person that I reached out to was Abigail Dowd. Thankfully, she agreed to come and perform, and so we're really excited. Abigail is a Greensboro-based singer, songwriter, and guitar player who grew up in the Sand Hills area of the state in Southern Pines. Since moving back to North Carolina after spending 5 years in Maine, she has released 3 albums, including her latest album, Beautiful Day, that came out last month. It's been getting great reviews and was produced by Jason Richmond, who has worked with the Ailey Brothers, Steep Canyon Rangers, and Rising Appalachia, just to name a few. This is Abigail's first performance since the album's released, and she's got plenty of great stories to share about how all these songs came about. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Abigail Dowd.
This is amazing. This is the first show that I've played where I don't have to simultaneously remember my lyrics, my chords, keep my sweet husband, who often plays with me, under some sort of control, because I love how he imbibes and forgets that it's Facebook Live and the HR director at work is watching. I just realized that we are on Facebook Live and I'm telling this story, so I'm just going to pick up my guitar and I'm going to start playing. And I love you, honey. I think he's playing tennis. But often I find myself having to, and I actually enjoy it, but it's a skill to read people's comments throughout the show. So I guess banter is allowed, conversation is allowed mid-song. It's a skill I've been honing for the last year. But I am really happy to be here. This is such a beautiful space. And I'm going to kick off with a song off my new album. I haven't plugged in yet, so are we good if I plug it in? Okay. We're going to start with Beautiful Day. Outside of my window, it's a beautiful day. I ought to go out for a while, call up a friend or lean on a stranger. I could sure use a smile on this beautiful day. Beautiful day outside. Mama called this morning, but I didn't answer. I didn't have the heart to say that I've been feeling kinda lonely. Sometimes I get blue, and Mama's try to make it all okay, 'cause they want every day to be a beautiful day. Beautiful day outside. Do you ever get lonely and wonder how much farther you can go? And do you think that you're the only one who knows? Friend, I know I have seen the darkness and I've got shadows inside, but I hold on for the light. And I have never known a sorrow that didn't make me stronger. There's never been a day that the sun don't rise. Bring a beautiful day. Beautiful day outside. Hold on, my friends. No one sees clearly in the dark. Even the longest nights outside. Oh, the beautiful day, beautiful day, oh, beautiful day outside. Thank you. We were just talking about this room, and you know, it's a really interesting song to play in this room when I think about this room. It's what I love about songwriting. The songs just take on a new meaning. Every time you play for somebody new or in a different space, you just feel it. I'm going to play a song now that I wrote during the quarantine. A friend of mine named Emily Scott Robinson, she called me one day and she said, why don't we do a songwriter thing? Why don't we write songs and we'll send them back and forth to each other and it'll keep us creative and connected. And so we decided we would turn in a song to each other every Thursday. And one day, it was about 10 o'clock in the morning on a Thursday, and I realized I had a deadline and I had not thought about it at all. But I did not want to let her down, and I knew she would write something beautiful, so this is what I sent her. I've got to write a song today. Confess I don't have much to say. My mind is racing with things I'd like to do. I am thinking up new ways to use my time and spend my days, while some folks think the world is falling apart. But I never fit the mold, and rules never had much hold over me. I knew the system was rigged all along. Break down the walls, let them fall. It's time we learn to fly on our own, 'cause we're already free, and we don't need their chains to bind. We're all connected, you and I. My husband got really worried when he heard this next verse, 'cause he knew it was true. I haven't seen my keys in a week, hell, maybe 3, but I don't miss them, and there's no place I'd rather be. And I am doing just fine. I haven't spent a single dime. Oh no, those things that I used to think I need. Oh, but I never fit that mold. Rules never had much hold over me. I knew the system was rigged all alone. Break down the walls and let them fall. It's time we learn to fly on our own, 'cause we're already free, and we don't need their chains to bind. We're all connected, you and I. Oh, and if I go tomorrow, send me on my way, and know that if I had to do this whole life over, no, I wouldn't do it any other way. I always hated chasing money, but I am thankful to you, honey, that you've played that game, and we're doing all right. Next week I may be on my knees, looking back at how naive I am while other people's lives are torn apart. You know I never fit the mold, and those rules never had much hold over me. And I knew the system was rigged all along. Break down the walls and let them fall. It's time we learn to fly on our own, 'cause we're already free, and we don't need their chains to bind. We're all connected, you and I. Thank you. So, if any of you have any requests, you're welcome to throw them out, because I did not write a set list. We're just playing them as we feel them. Some of you might have heard this story. I feel like I tell it a lot. That's the thing about performing, is you often tell the same stories and you're always trying to find a new way to tell it. But our house flooded in 2018 right after we got married, and it was making me sick, and it was a really hard thing to say to your brand new husband, I can't live in this beautiful house that you have provided for me. And so after it flooded 2 or 3 times, we both moved in to his high school bedroom with his parents, because that is every bride's dream. And God bless my husband, he decided he needed to move back home and fix up the house while I lived in his high school bedroom and decorated it in all pink. And one morning I decided that I needed to get out of the house, and I decided I was going to drive to Pittsburgh to see a friend of mine that I hadn't seen in 10 years. And I got to Siler City at a stoplight, and these lyrics just dropped in. And I wrote them down on my phone, and I went home that night in a moment of rage because I was alone upstairs on the 3rd floor with no date. I think Jason had gone out with some buddies, and I picked up my guitar. Sometimes it's good when your husband goes out with the guys because you write songs. I wake up every morning and I take it one step at a time, and I face my days one breath at a time. We are all one together in this life that goes on and on, one moment at a time. Do we ever really know where we come from or where we meant to be? Exactly where we're going? Are we ever really free? If I am you and you are me, we are all one together in this life that goes on and on, one moment at a time. Sometimes all I've got, sometimes all I know, sometimes all that I can see is what is right in front of me. Looks pretty good right now. I wake up every morning and I take it one step at a time. And I face my days one breath at a time. One step at a time, one breath at a time, one moment at a time. Thank you. Do you know, I think Mother's Day is this weekend, isn't it? I think we should do a Mother's Day song. I used to live in Maine. I grew up in the Sandhills, and we're gonna sing some Sandhill songs too. But I wasn't living my truth. I don't know if you've ever had that feeling, and you find yourself on the bathroom floor, you know, asking somebody, hoping there's something bigger than you. You know, I can't even remember what song I'm singing. Oh yeah, okay. I'm telling some really deep story, and I'm thinking, I don't know if this song is that deep. Anyways, that bathroom floor led me to move to Maine, and I'm trying to get to D here. There we go. I moved to Maine, and I swore I would never come home. And my poor mother, I never came home. And Mother's Day rolled around, and I realized that I have a little brother, and he never ran away, and he was always gonna have the better Mother's Day present. I thought, he's a pretty cool kid, but he doesn't write songs. So I wrote Mama a song, and she cried. That's what every songwriter wants, right? I look exactly like my father, with hair, thank God. I remember I had a teacher in 8th grade, and I don't know why she was telling all the boys that those of them that had high foreheads were all gonna be bald, and the whole room looked at me. Have I ever said thank you? Have I ever told you I know I have my father's face, and my mother's fearless soul is the spirit that carries me through. There have been times I've had to be carried, but now I carry you with me. 1,000 miles, it isn't really all that far, 'cause I'm wherever you are. And I wrote this song to say that I'm thinking of you today. And I wrote this song to say I'm never that far away. Thank you. I'm feeling a little guilty because on my way here, my mom called. And I actually answered the phone, unlike in the beautiful day, because I wasn't blue. And my mother, she said, please drive safe. I said, Mom, I'm 40 years old. I know, but I love my children. And I was singing this song feeling really bad for, giving her a hard time for being a mother right before Mother's Day. It is really nice this year to be able to invite my mother over for dinner. Last year, I think it was the first time we got together, and we were terrified of being too close in the backyard, and it was a really hard day to be with your mother and feel like you couldn't be with your mother. It was very strange. Speaking of mothers, good old Mother Earth. I went to Chapel Hill and I studied anthropology because, well, it's about the first major on the list. I didn't read very far. I didn't want to be there. I wanted to be in Boston singing in a coffee shop somewhere, but I didn't know how this music thing actually worked, so I took my mother's advice. But I still really love anthropology, and I was reading this book about indigenous languages and the death of languages, and I couldn't believe that there are so many languages that go extinct. And I thought, what would it feel like if I was the last person that could speak my language? And as a songwriter, that is devastating, to think that nobody could understand my songs and my stories. I am the last woman of my tongue. No one left where I come from. I can navigate the seas, the stars and the waters speak to me. The gods are on the run, run, run. They're on the run, 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 run. There's a halo around the moon. The rain is coming soon. There's gonna be a flood. Mother Earth looks to the sky. I hear her whisper, friend, goodbye. Let the water run. Let it run, 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 run. Let it run, 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 run. Let it run, 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 run. And I call out who came before. Tell me, what can I do? And they say, daughter, our stories cannot help you anymore. No one can hear you. We've lost the language of the land, and there's no woman, child, or man who knows where we come from. We are running out of time to save this planet, humankind. Oh, where will you run? Where will you run? Run, run, run. When there's nowhere to run, run, run. You better run, 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 run. Thank you. so nice in here, and just can't tell you how good it feels to be on stage and to have Brian running sound instead of Facebook. When I lived in Maine, I worked at an architecture firm, and I got this job, and I was at like the lowest point in my life. My self-worth was negative, in the negative. And I had this really awesome boss who was such an artist. And one day, we had a really good month. He was more artist than businessman, and he gave us all a really big bonus. And I took the whole bonus and I bought this guitar right here. And I had never written a song before, and I went home, and this fell out. And I told you I was never gonna come back to North Carolina. And I knew I wasn't homesick, and I didn't wanna be there, and this song proved me wrong. I packed my bags the other day, swore I'd never find my way this way again. I drove 1,000 miles north up through the mountains and left my world behind. But I never knew what it meant to be a Southern belle till I crossed that Dixie line and said farewell. By sweet magnolia blossoms in the summertime. Goodbye to the whippoorwill singing sweetly in the night on the longleaf pines. And goodbye, stranger, the one who'll pass you on the street. And every time he'll greet you with a smile. Goodbye, hometown, and everyone I've ever known. I really didn't know a soul in Maine. I just got in my little Honda Civic and drove to Portland. I had a duffel bag and a guitar. I stayed in somebody's basement for a little while, and then I got a cat-sitting job for some lady I didn't know. I was very grateful to this lady for her long extended trip to China. I settled in New England, where the winter sky is gray and full of cold. And I traded in my bare feet for these snowshoes and long walks in the snow. These winter nights get lonely sometimes way up here. And I think of all the ones that I've held dear. Goodbye, peaches. Goodbye, sweet magnolia blossoms in the summertime. Goodbye to the whippoorwill singing sweetly in the night on the longleaf pines. Goodbye to that stranger, the one who'll pass you on the street. And every time he'll greet you with a smile. And goodbye, hometown, and everyone I've ever loved. Before this guitar, I had a guitar that had belonged to my great-grandfather, who owned a music shop in this little town called Norman. It was half music shop, half barber shop. I used to run around there when I was a little kid. There's something about these old country towns up north that remind me of my grandpa's music store. And I've got his old guitar with me to play once in a while. It makes those miles not seem so far.
Perhaps the best way to be grateful for the people in your life is to know what it's like when they're not near. Goodbye, peaches. Goodbye, sweet magnolia blossoms in the summertime. Goodbye to the whippoorwill singing sweetly in the night among the lone leaf pines. And goodbye to that stranger, the one who'll pass you on the street. And every time he'll greet you with a smile. And goodbye on down, and everyone I've ever known. I learned that strangers in Maine, they don't smile on the street in the summertime. But when you're digging out your car in 3 feet of snow, that's when they shine. Thank you. So that was one of the first songs that I wrote. And after you write a song, the fear sets in that you will never, ever be able to write another song. It will never come again. It was a fluke. And then even after you've written like 20 songs, you still think like, is that it? Like, and so I took a songwriting workshop with this amazing guy named Steve Poltz. And if you haven't heard, do you know Steve? Don't you love Steve? He's amazing. That's what happens. Exactly. So this long hair, like he's kind of like a Muppet. And he just shines. I had never heard of this man. And I'm at the songwriter retreat and I'm reading through all of the very elevated descriptions of the workshops that are available to take during this week. And there was one about fear. And it promised that you may win the lottery and reach enlightenment and learn that songwriting is fun. And I thought, I'll take any of those three. And so I went. He was so awesome. And it turns out that the very first song I learned to play on the guitar was You Were Meant for Me by Jewel. Well, my little 14-year-old self thought that Jewel had written that song, and the whole time I'm watching Steve Poltz play guitar thinking, I've never met anybody that plays guitar like me. Like, where did he come from? And then he says he co-wrote that song with Jewel. And I'm thinking, my whole life I've been trying to be Jewel, but I've really been trying to be Steve Poltz. I just didn't know he existed. So I go home and I decide songwriting is fun. I'm working on enlightenment. I'm not holding out hope for the lottery. But songwriting kind of became fun. And this song it fell out. And every time I sing it, I think of Steve Poltz for no other reason than that I realize if the well runs dry, I'll just go do something else. No big deal. Okay, how does this song go? It's so funny. I saw this gal play the other day, and she did this 3 times. So far, I'm only doing this once. Let's see. I used to know all the answers to all the questions weighing on my soul. I used to call out for someone up above. I never heard a word, so I gave up. Sometimes I feel like a diamond clears the light. Sometimes I feel like a miner left behind in the dark. Whoa. Nobody told me that I could believe in a divine that lives within me. Oh, you know it takes time to buried with your mind. It takes even more time to let it shine. Sometimes I feel like a diamond clear as the light, and sometimes I feel like a miner left behind in the dark. See, you just gotta go with it, because there's the actual groove to the song. I finally found it. I was talking to Pulse in my head. Come on, Steve. So I called out just to see if anyone, oh, if they would answer me. And I heard that sweet voice call from deep down inside, saying I've been here all this time to tell you that you're already home. You're already home. You're already home. Sometimes I feel like a diamond clear as the light, and sometimes I feel like a miner left behind in the dark. I used to know all the answers. Thank you. The next year I went back to that same camp, and Steve was not there, and I skipped class the entire week. I thought, what would Poltz do? And he might have gone to class, I don't know, but I decided instead to go tubing for the first time and to sit in the river. It's the St. Vrain River, and right outside Boulder, Colorado, in Lyons. And I took my guitar and I sat in the river. I had my tent pitched, and there was this beautiful big boulder, and I thought, I'm gonna sit on that rock with my guitar and I'm gonna just do my own thing. And I propped my cell phone on my knee and turned on the voice memo, and it was like the river just had something to say. And when I got home from Colorado, I turned it on, and it was like just this full song, it's just every time I hear it, I'm sitting on that rock and I'm listening to the river, and it has something different to say every time. And I was thinking about my great-grandmother, and she was such a cool woman. And when I was little, my grandmother was Pentecostal, so we would go to her Pentecostal church. And I remember I've learned that on this planet, where you have one, you have the other. So for all of the scary ministers jumping up, telling my little 3-year-old self that I was going to hell, which was terrifying, except that I didn't actually believe him, there was also this joy and this music. Like, man, they throw down. And my grandmother, she would just raise up her hands and speak in tongues, and just, there was so much energy, and it was so awesome. And I was thinking about her in this river, because all of those great old hymns that we sang were always about water. And I had no idea that I was sitting in this river that had, like, 5 years earlier flooded the entire Boulder Valley and destroyed so many homes. And just hours after I wrote this song, our house in North Carolina flooded so bad that the city of Greensboro had to buy it and tear it down. And I thought, I guess prayers are answered, because there is no way that we were going to salvage that house. teardrops in my eyes. I'm gonna give them to the river. I've got stories in my bones that won't be told. Lay my burdens down, Lord, and let them go. River, wash me whole. Heaven ain't up, hell ain't below. My feet are tired, Lord, they're tired. Well, I'm gonna wash them in the river. My tongue is burning, it's on fire. Well, I'm gonna fill my cup in the river. 'Cause I've got stories in my bones that won't be told. Lay my burdens down, oh Lord, and let them go. River, wash me whole. Heaven ain't up, hell ain't below. Gotta give a little, live with a little more love. What if heaven ain't waiting up above? What if it's right here? If you don't live your truth, hell will come find you. I'm gonna raise my hands up high, and I'm gonna walk into the river. I'm gonna let my voice rise, and I'm gonna sing out with the river. 'Cause I've got stories in my bones that won't be told. Lay my burdens down and let them go. River, wash me whole. Heaven ain't up, hell ain't below. You gotta give a little, live a little more, show a little more love. Show the world what you came here made of. You gotta free your heart and follow your soul. Oh, 'cause heaven ain't up, Lord, hell ain't below. Thank you. Whew. I'm gonna have to have some tea after that. You have the loveliest coffee shop. I stopped. I've never been to Statesville before, and I got here a little early, and I stopped at the Lake Mountain Cafe, and they have this sage lavender wonderful potionness, and the nicest person to see. The what? You worked there? I loved that place. I'm coming back. Wait, you were there. I remember you. Yeah. Speaking of small towns, that was the perfect segue, thank you. I love audience participation. There's this little town where my mom grew up and where my great-grandfather had the music store. It was called Norman. And I only lived there for a really brief period of time, from like 3 to 4. But it is so vivid in my mind. I think about it all the time. There's a place in the South where Billy used to play. The town where he was born, he never thought he'd get away from that old cinder-blocked house his daddy built. It wasn't always full of love, but that's not something we speak of. And I think of that old country town where the peaches grow so sweet. I hear the old gospel songs they'd sing and believed every word that preacher preached. Love thy father and have no fear. Somewhere on this music God will hear. So sing those hallelujahs and amazing grace, and pray to God He'll get you from this place. Well, that old country town's been torn down, and there's a highway running through the living room. There's nothing of their childhood to be found, and nothing more to assume. But if you stop on a Sunday afternoon and try the peaches, they're awful sweet, and listen for the lingering tune, those old gospel songs they'd sing, and love thy father and have no fear. Somewhere on this music God is here. So sing those hallelujahs and amazing grace. Somehow things all fall into place. Born and blind, there must be some divine. Can't see you and me. Thank you. You can tell I grew up in a praying house. My mama can pray. And one night she woke up in the middle of the night and she just had that feeling that apparently moms get. I don't know this feeling. She knew that something was wrong with one of her kids. And so she got up out of bed and she got down on her knees and she started praying. And she kept coming back around to my brother. She prayed for me and then she'd come back to my brother, and she kept coming back around to my brother. And my brother is a fireman. And the next morning at about 7:30, he called. And he said, "Mama, you will not believe the fire we had last night. I was on the second floor of this house, and that thing was roaring. And the floor fell right out from under me, and I don't know why I didn't fall." And his sister, being a songwriter, said, "Ooh, I love a good story like that." There's something burning deep inside. I can see it in his eyes. First saw the flicker when he was 3 years old. The preacher said he'd grow up tall. He'd be the bravest of us all. He'd fight the devil and his own desires. Oh, Mama's on her knees tonight. She says, hold that ground beneath him tight. You bring those boys home all right. Call her in the morning. Out on the darkest road I know, he's out there looking for the glow of the fire. He can feel it in his soul. He'll lead him through a wall of flame. No doubt, no questioning, no pain. He'll fight the blaze till the cold air chills his bones. Oh, the devil, he's in rare form tonight, but he's going down. Oh, he's going down. You bring those boys home all right, and call Mama in the morning. He grew up tall and he grew up strong. He sees the worst kind of road. He'll chase the devil straight into the fire. Oh, Mama's on her knees tonight. She says, hold that ground, beneath him tight. You bring those boys home all right. Call Mama in the morning. Thank you. Well, let's see. So I told you I grew up in the Sandhills region in Southern Pines, and I don't know if you have ever visited the world's oldest living longleaf pine tree, but it's there. And it's not much to see, but it's really cool that it's there. And the reason it's not much to see is because it was stunted by the turpentine industry. So it's an old turpentine tree. And after I learned about this turpentine industry, it's really amazing to go out into the woods and see these old trees that you would never notice because they aren't big. And they have this carving in the sides of it. It's called cat face, because it looks like cat whiskers, and that was how they'd box out the tree, they'd carve a little box, and they'd put the pail under there, and then they'd cat face carve it so that the sap would run in, and that's how they made turpentine and tap the trees for pitch and tar and all the things. And I was reading a book one day about the longleaf pines, and I saw the word wiregrasser, and it's kind of like the word hillbilly. It was meant derogatory, but then the folks down in Alabama in the Wiregrass region, they owned it. And a lot of them were turpentine workers. We still have a lot of longleaf pines in North Carolina, or not like we used to, but down in the Alabama Wiregrass region, we lost the wiregrass and the black belt prairies because they cut all the trees down.
I belong to no one. The rocky shore beneath the pines is where I come from, and I can still hear my mama calling. Come sundown, boy, you make your way back home. From the wiregrass of Alabama, down in Andalusia is where I get my name. I work this land just like my daddy. Hands like leather and I mean as those blades. 'Cause I'm a wiregrasser chipping down the pines. There's no more black belt prairies, only pitch tar, ooh, and turpentine. Well, I grew up from the ashes, sand in my shoes and pine sap running through my veins. I've got cat face carved in my sides. Oh, and no amount of prayer will save my life. 'Cause I'm a wiregrasser chipping down the pines. There's no more black belt prairies, only pitch tar, ooh, and turpentine. We bled them dry and we worked them to the bone. Stomped out the devil's fire and prayed that God would save our souls. I still hear mama calling. Heaven is the only place left to call my home. God bless my soul, 'cause I'm a wiregrasser chipping down the pines. There's no more black belt prairies, only pitch tar, whoa, and turpentine.
Thank you. That's a gritty little song, but it's not as gritty as this one. This one's by request.
I've been running all my life, but it never crossed my mind. Some folks take it slow and make it farther down the road. I never even made it down the drive. I've been a fighter all my life, and it never crossed my mind that I can't forget the hands, the first touch of a man, and I can hurt you while you look me in the eye. There's an old white house in the countryside, and it's time I turned around to go back for that girl inside. Tell her we'll all right and hold her tight. Alone I spend my time, and it never crossed my mind that I took all the blame and I've carried all the shame, and I'm terrified you'll see it in my eyes. I'm going back to make it right. It's been on my mind for 30 years or more. She's been pounding on the door, hoping someone else could hear her silent cry. But I'm the only one who ever hears her cry. There's an old white house in the countryside, and it's time I turned around to go back for that girl inside, tell her we're alright, and hold her tight. There's an old white house in the countryside, and it's time I turned around to go back for that girl inside, tell her you're alright, and hold her tight. Thank you.
Trying to remember where my capo goes. The first time I heard of Statesville was when the murals were painted by Ben Long. And at the time, I was a nude model for an artist for probably a decade. And it was such a fascinating world, because that world of fresco and grinding your own paint and waking up every morning under old master paintings and learning art history from the eyes of an artist. It was after 10 years of being an artist model, and I ran an art school, an art academy, that we founded based on like the French Academy way combined with the Italian Renaissance way. So you're learning what you know, the Italian way, the anatomy way, and what you see, the French way, and putting them together, and it was just this really, really inspiring world. And I remember there was a painting of Ophelia by an artist named Millay, and the story goes, and I've researched it enough to know that it's pretty true, that there was a model, and in order to get that realistic look of Ophelia floating in the water, the artist lined a bathtub and he put candles underneath it to keep the water warm, and the model would lay in the bathtub fully clothed. And one day, the candles blew out, and she caught pneumonia because the water got so cold, and the artist was so in the zone, and she nearly died. She survived. And I remember at the time, it was like, yes, that is what we do for art. And I don't know where that idea came from, but it was like, we have to suffer to be artists. And, you know, models, we become immortal through the eyes of these magnificent maestros. And eventually, I decided to become my own maestro and find a muse of my own. And I left. And years later, I wrote this song, and it was just funny how it just came out. I have noticed that when I write songs, a lot of time I either write a song that I don't know I need yet because the moment hasn't come that I'm going to need it in the future, or I'm processing something from 10 years ago that I didn't know was still in there. But this song always makes me think of that painting which is in the Tate Gallery, and I do always love places like this, arts councils and organizations that really celebrate art with a sense of joy and happiness and don't expect artists to, or models, to suffer quite so dramatically. And none of that is to suggest that any of that is true about that
glorious mural in Statesville, which is a beautiful introduction to the city, or town, I suppose it's a town. I heard that. I'll go with it.
When you look my way, what do you see? A painted canvas of me, or an upside-down beauty in black and white? The kind of girl you'd like to find prowling your street tonight. Oh, I am not what I seem, and I'm not as lovely as you'd like me to be. I don't wanna live forever, it's not a price I'll pay to stand and be admired while my life slips away. Like Ophelia in the water, you stand and gaze upon her while she drowns, and then comment on her beauty as if it was her duty to please your eye and make you feel something inside. Oh, I am not what I seem, and I'm not as lovely as you'd like me to be. Always running in circles, right back to the past, desperate, determined the next love will last. Wondering why as time passes by, still can't find words for the thoughts on my mind. Oh, and I'm not what I seem, and I'm not as lovely as you like me to be. I'm not what I seem, and I'm not as lovely as you'd like me to be.
Thank you. I've got 2 more songs for you. How does that sound? All right. So usually I play with my amazing husband, who is an amazing husband, and also an amazing guitar player, bass player, percussionist. He plays percussion with his feet and he throws down on the bass at the same time, and it's pretty incredible. He couldn't be here tonight. So if you see me live again, there will probably be a little more like upbeat groove, but for some reason I'm playing you all the slow, moody ones because I can, because he's not here. When I did decide that I was going to be my own maestro and jump off this cliff and see if I could be a non-suffering, non-starving musician, I was talking with a friend of mine, and I started talking about my dad, and I was talking about how scared I was and terrified that I had just quit my really good job as the executive director of a nonprofit and jumped off this cliff to make this album. And somehow I was talking about my dad to my friend, and my dad passed away when I was 12. And I would always see owls on my birthday after that, from like age 12 to age 19 or 20 or so. Always an owl, every year. And I hadn't seen an owl in years, and I went out in the yard, and there was an owl on the front porch, or on the yard sign right outside our house. And it was just a really cool thing. And so these last 2 songs I'm gonna leave you with have these really beautiful connections to owls and these signs that, you know, there are always things that are talking to us and telling us the way. And even when we're all by ourselves locked up in our house in the middle of a pandemic, there's always somebody there. And this is such a beautiful room to play in, and I think about all the people who have been in this room, and it's it's really an honor to get to be here tonight and share the evening with you, so thank you.
Where were you when I wanted to call, to hear your voice say it's okay, you're not wrong at all? And where were you when I first left home? I have never felt so lonely as out on my own. And where were you when I found my first love? Where were you to say she's mine, take care of my girl? Thought I saw you a few days ago. It caught me by surprise. It's been so long. You were here all alone and closer than ever before, and right by my side whenever I fall. I wrote this song to say hello.
Thank you. So I wrote that song, and then, the spirit sort of disappeared on me, and it was still right there, but then our house flooded, and it was another one of those moments of like, what is going on? I'm living with neighbors, working out of my car, hanging out wherever I can come up with to like do some work. And I was sitting in a bookstore one day, and I just said, come on, Dad. I need something. I don't have anything to hold on to. And I don't know how this is going to end. I have no home, and we don't know what to do. And having this conversation in this bookstore, and I get up and I go I pass by this bulletin board, and on the bulletin board there's this postcard of the most beautiful profile of this Native American woman. And it caught my eye, and I took it down, and it said Voices of Sacred Wisdom or something like that. And I looked, and it was these two elders coming near Greensboro to sit around a sacred fire. And I looked at the date. It was the only date on the calendar for months that I didn't have a show. I thought, I think maybe I'm supposed to be here. So I immediately register for this thing, and I show up all by myself. I don't know anybody. I'm in the middle of nowhere. And I get my little seat around this fire, and all of these people are gathering around. People flew in from Santa Fe and drove in from Asheville, and it was just this beautiful place. And then the woman whose face was on the postcard, she steps up to the fire, and she's holding tobacco in her hand, and she says, I am my father's daughter, And for 2 hours, she talked about her dad, who had passed away when she was a kid, and how he was so much stronger on the other side, and that she could feel him, and that he, could protect her in ways that he couldn't have on this side. And it was just this beautiful, powerful reminder that there are always those that are taking care of us and watching us. And it is so hard to be human sometimes. It's just so damn hard. And sometimes we feel so alone, and there are always people in the room with us or watching over us. And this amazing woman, and she was just striking and beautiful, she referred to the moon as Grandmother Moon and the sun as Grandfather Sun. And I had never heard that. I thought, wow, how amazing that I could look out my window at night and think of the moon as a grandmother. It's just the most comforting thing. And so I go back to this borrowed house that I'm staying in, and this song just drops out. And it's the last track on my new album. It's called Grandmother Moon. And it just feels like a really sweet benediction to end the evening on, because this has just felt so good. So this is Grandmother Moon.
Say a prayer to Grandmother Moon, shine a light on me. You wax and wane just the same. Teach me how to be a woman who walks the land. With strength and wisdom I will stand. Grandmother Moon, I pray to thee. Mother Earth walks by my side. I never feel alone. Her mountains, valleys, rivers, streams are the places I call home. She gives me everything I need. For every pain, a remedy. The ground below and the air I breathe. Mother Earth takes care of me. Grandfather, son, please do not hide away for long. We pray for rain to fill the wide river, but when the storms pass on, paint a rainbow in the sky, part the clouds that block your light. Grandfather, son, please do not hide. And I will carry the light till I can find my way. And when at night I lay my head, to Creator I give thanks. Oh, Creator, I give thanks. Oh, Creator, I give thanks.
Thank you. Thank you.
Oh, thank you. This is such an honor.
Thank you.